Welcome to Connie Reacts. I'm your host, and today we are reacting to Star vs. the Force of Evil, Season 3, Episode 16. So, last time on Star vs. the Force of Evil, Star learned an important lesson about patience from her father, of all people, and we had Moon and Eclipsa going on a little adventure in which they were trying to figure out why Eclipse's daughter was being replaced in all the records. They weren't able to figure it out for sure, but Festivia, who is the fake, is the one who's being led to, who was in the records as Eclipse's daughter. But we know that's not true. So, at the end of the second part of 15B, we saw that Star had returned, and she was going to go talk to her mother again, this time with a more clear head, and she finds Eclipsa there as well. So, yeah, I'm wondering if this is going to continue straight off of that, or if we're going to go into something else. I honestly have no idea, but I'm excited to find out. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode, both parts of it. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in today, and yeah, I'll see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Wow, that was, there's a lot to unpack, as I said at the end of the reaction here. There's a lot to unpack. So, first of all, we had the trial episode, Eclipse's trial and all. This has been a long time coming. It's been built up really well, and it answered some questions, but not all. So, apparently, we found out that Festivia was a peasant girl. Just some random, ordinary peasant girl. And that she was given, like, the wand and control of the kingdom and everything following Eclipsa's freezing in the crystal. Now, Eclipsa's actual daughter, Meteora, or Miss Heinous as we know her, was put in the peasant girl's place. So, I guess given to the family of the peasant girl. Which means that Meteora was raised to become Miss Heinous through that. So, she clearly has memories of being Meteora, of being Eclipse's daughter, despite having been so young when that all happened. And despite all of that, she knows who she is. Who knows what she's up to right now, but this is big. And also big is that we found out that the ones responsible for hiding all of this and changing all of the royal documents and stuff were the Magic High Commission. That they had done this because of their misguided belief that Eclipsa was evil. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying Eclipsa's not evil. I still say it's unclear. But nothing in this episode proved it. Nothing in this trial at all proved she was evil. You know what this trial proved? That the Magic High Commission have a massive bias towards her and will automatically claim anything she does, says, or thinks is evil, no matter if it is or not. As we saw with Hekapoo just putting a check mark under evil for every little thing that Eclipsa answered from the box, despite, you know, none of it actually being evil. Not a single one was a sign of being evil. I mean, yes, leaving the kingdom, leaving her husband, and eloping with a monster like that. That's a little wrong. but it's not evil. And a lot of this, a lot of the reasons that they claim Eclipse to be evil all stems back to their basically racism against the monsters. It was like in the episode they basically said like, oh, we couldn't have the kingdom be ruled by a half monster, basically abomination, is what they were saying. And I mean that's wrong on so many levels. Just how could they think that's right? But the biggest thing in this was it confirmed a theory I had. It confirmed that Moon, Star, and everyone after Eclipsa is not actually related to every Eclipsa and everyone before. Now, I see what Star is saying about them not actually being royalty, but I disagree with that. Royalty doesn't always have to be familial. It doesn't always have to go down the line of family. It can be taken, it can be declared, it can be married into, all of that stuff. So, Star and Moon and them, they are royalty. They're just a different line. They didn't know that, but they are still royalty in pretty much every way. They hold the title of royalty, and I don't think that should change. But Star, because of the break in the family line, she doesn't see herself as connected to that anymore. And I get why. I understand, but I just don't. I kind of just don't agree, I guess you could say. Um, she's still royalty. She's not related in any way to Eclipsa. None of them are. But that doesn't mean she's not royalty. But that's a big deal going forward. How is Star going to handle this moving forward? How is Moon going to handle this? Star removed Eclipsa's cuffs, basically effectively freeing her, but Eclipsa stayed there. The rest of them stayed there. What's going to happen? The next episode went off into a completely different tangent, and I'm actually, well, not the next episode, but the next half of the episode, and I'm actually kind of upset about that. Like, not saying that 16B was bad, but this needed to be resolved before they moved into this entire thing with Ludo. Now, I have no problem with them going for something with Ludo. I think it needed to happen, and this is actually a good point where it's been quite a while without him, and so we need to get back into things. But, yeah, it's just... this just needed to be held off for a little bit while they finished this entire thing with Eclipsa and all. Or even at least just put it to a point where it made sense to cut it off and move on to something else. Because that change was so sudden and random that it just didn't mesh well. I mean, the only way this can work is if both of these plot lines, the entire Eclipsa and Butterfly family plot line, as well as the Ludo plotline, merge together at one point. But even so, it would still come across as very sudden and just really forced in its execution. The only way, it would have been better to wait till after they at least got to a point where it would have felt better to conclude at that and move on to the Ludo thing, or if they did the Ludo thing before the trial. That would have been a lot better in my eyes. But let's talk about the Ludo part, the second half of the episode, 16B. So Dennis is getting sick of his parents. They're constantly berating and harassing him just because he looks up to Ludo. And yeah, it's just he wants out. So thanks to help from Spider and a little bit from Bird. Bird barely does anything, but with a little bit of help, um, Dennis and Spider find where Ludo is. And so Dennis goes there and has to try to convince Ludo, who's apparently gone crazy, that he needs to leave and that they need to just go do things on their own. Now, Ludo apparently has a bunch of these dummies made of his parents that he's been talking to and acting like were real. But either Ludo is really fast and is moving them really fast, or there's something more to them and that they're actually moving. I don't, or maybe that was just from Dennis's perspective. I don't know. Because they seemed like they were moving on their own. um, Either way, Dennis had to learn to basically stick up for himself. He had to learn to fight back against his oppressors, and he did so. He fought back, and he learned to stand up for himself. Cool, right? Well, he's trying to get Ludo to leave, but Ludo's like, okay, you've taught me something and everything, but for the next part of this, before I can leave and all, I need to be on my own. And I actually understand that. I get that. Like, it's like, this is something you need to do on your own at this point. You need to, like, kind of find yourself again. And he gives Dennis, like, encouragement, like, you just did this. You can go stand up to them. And so Dennis heads out. But Ludo then uncovers that he has these dummies made for Star and Marco as well. And he doesn't seem as crazy as he let on. So either he was putting up some kind of facade while Dennis was there, trying to act crazy and disassociated, or he already had those made and just had never used them, and Dennis's actions and words and everything snapped him out of it, and now he's ready to take action. I feel like those are the two big possibilities here. Now, here's what I'm thinking. We don't have a true villain right now. Even Eclipsa, even if she is evil, she's not yet a true villain of the story. Miss Heinous is kind of a minor villain, and she's just... I don't even really think I'd count her as one at this point, just at the moment. So if Ludo somehow returns, I would actually welcome that. I would welcome Ludo returning as a main villain again. Now, here's something I'm questioning as well. Toffee, going back to him, I still do not want to believe he's dead, because that would still be just a completely stupid and poorly written way to go. But even outside of that, in the flashbacks, when Toffee was leading the monster army and all, he had the spades, right, on his armor. He seemed like he was serving Eclipsa. But we knew Eclipsa was already crystallized at that point. And that had been already a long time after, so you could say, oh, maybe he's serving her husband. No, he wouldn't be alive at this point either, you would think. Unless monsters have longer lifespans, but there's never been any real hint at that. Also to note, we know it can't be Heinous because she didn't know, and we assume she was alive at that point. But then, who was he serving? Now, if Eclipsa is truly evil, and he was serving her, and he was, like, somehow working for her, how was that the case? And if not, who else is out there that would bear that symbol? Because that can't just be coincidence. That exact symbol would appear on his armor. So I think there's definitely more to this that we have yet to learn about. This first half of the episode really got my mind ticking, really got my thoughts going and theories being crafted, and really makes me want to know more. Now, again, the second half, if Ludo does come back as a villain, again, I would be okay with that. I'd like to see him return as a real villain again. Hopefully a more competent one this time. But at the same time, I think that the butterfly stuff needs to be resolved first. The entire thing with Eclipsa. It needs to be resolved on whether or not she's good or bad before Ludo comes back. And I think they need to go more into the stuff with Heinous / Meteora as well. Just because it's like, this is the big story right now. The Ludo thing is kind of a side thing. Also, to note, we haven't seen Marco in quite a few episodes. Like, since it just returned with episode 15 and now 16, we haven't seen Marco at all in either of them. In any of the 4 minisodes. He has not been in them. So, we need to see Marco again at some point. And I think with Star running off and, like, questioning her identity as royalty at this point, I think this is a good point for her to meet up with him and, like, vent to him about all of this. I think that would be smart here. But yeah, I can't wait to see more. This coming Saturday's episode, like, I really hope that they go in the right direction with this and continue on the Eclipsa stuff, because trying to move on from that at this point would just feel completely unnatural, like it did with the second half of this episode. And again, I'm not saying the second half of this episode was bad. It wasn't. It wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't bad. But it just felt unnatural, and it's in just the fact that it was done at that point. It didn't feel like it was meant to be there in the rotation. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Tell me in the comments below what you thought of episode 16 of Star vs. the Forces of Evil Season 3. What do you think of the fact that the Magic High Commission are the ones who changed all the official records regarding the daughter of Eclipsa? And what do you think of the fact that Star and Moon and everyone after Eclipsa are not related to the original Butterfly family? How is this going to change things? Tell me those thoughts and more in the comments below, and thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Connie Royal, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live for yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles,